Gary Sims here from Android Authority. While we're here at ARM TechCon, I've met with a good friend of mine, Paul Teich, who, as well as being an analyst for the TIRIAS group, is also a bit of an aficionado about artificial intelligence. Hello, Paul. Good to have you here this morning.
Glad to be here, Gary. Thanks.
It's a pleasure. We've just had a great breakfast together, actually, and we've talked about so many things. We're just going to go over some of them again. Let's start with the difference between sapience and sentience, Paul, and let's see where we go.
I think science fiction writers kind of get it a little bit confused. So the way we look at sentience, the definition of sentience is self-awareness. And so we actually don't know when organisms are self-aware. In fact, if you take a mechanistic view of the universe, because we don't know how to measure self-awareness, we're not actually sure that we're self-aware. We think we are, but from a philosophical point of view, not sure. Don't know how to measure it. Okay. We talk about sapience. Sapience, the root words are close to wisdom. Okay, so sapience is a decision-making capability. We tend to view sapient creatures as higher order, capable of making decisions, and in some cases we view them as a touch of divine. Okay, if you're religious, then sapience is kind of connected to having the ability to control your environment. Okay, so pure sense, we look at sapience as a decision-making capability of having some kind of wisdom about the universe around you.
Okay, that's great. So you were also saying earlier about your dog, and then it could go and fetch toys. So what does that? How does that fit into that category of sapience and sentience, as an example?
So and again, so at Imitating Machines.
So I forgot to mention that. Paul's got a great blog, which he does with his son, called imitatingmachines.com. Go and check it out. It's absolutely fantastic. Sorry.
So our discussion is framed around automation and job loss. And the question of sentience is almost irrelevant in that context. Again, we can't measure it, don't really know what it is, where it emerges in the animal kingdom, or if plants have it, don't know. Okay, self-awareness, difficult topic. Sapience may be loosely connected to intelligence. Okay, so do you need to be intelligent to make decisions or make good decisions? And so we use the example of our dog. So Zoe is an American dingo. She's about 40 pounds, kind of brown, all-purpose dog. Conveniently sized, and she loves playing frisbee, likes being outside, and she will make the decision if, in her matrix of decision making, if we put a bowl of food in front of her, and then pick up the frisbee, she's going with the frisbee. Okay. When we get outside, she'll tell us when she's done. Okay. It's like, I don't want to play that anymore. I'd rather go chase a squirrel, go on a walk. But she makes these decisions point to point in her timeline. And it displays a volition on her part. Okay, she's got her goals that she's trying to go accomplish, which may change mercurially, moment to moment. But she is kind of controlling her own destiny. So the American dingo actually comes with this package of self-reliance. Okay, they often will just look at you and say, I know how to fetch that ball, but I'm not going to do that right now. And so a good example of what we would consider to be not very intelligent on a human scale, but making social decisions, okay, in a context that humans can understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and you mentioned she has her own goals, and we also talked about goal setting, what that means. You have a really interesting point of view, which is that the principle of goal setting comes from survival instinct. Tell me about that a bit.
So as we look at creating, going past artificial intelligence into machine learning, deep learning, and creating sapient machines, okay, go past machine intelligence. Intelligence is what you know and what you can do. Sapience is, having a larger framework of understanding and making decisions based on it. Goal setting in that context is a byproduct of 1.5 billion years of evolution. So organisms have to fight to survive. Okay, eat or be eaten. I don't want to die of starvation. Okay, I don't want to die of weather exposure. And so over the course of these billions of years of evolution, organisms on planet Earth have developed a survival imperative. And so it's a goal setting. Okay, it says, I need to get past the next hour. Okay, I'm being hunted. Or at least I think I'm being hunted. Something's following me. Okay,
That's called paranoia.
well, yeah, but that's actually an that's an overfit pattern matching.
Yeah.
We can talk about overfit in a minute, because that's a large part of modeling. Okay, none of us, no organism on Earth has a complete set of information or a complete model of how the universe works. Okay, and so, but going back to goal setting and survival. You go past surviving this hour into finding something to eat to survive the day, okay, breathing, existing, into behavior patterns that emerge where, say, you're a big cat and you learn how to drag your dead prey into a tree. You can't eat it all. You could leave it for other scavengers, but if you take it into the tree, you can eat it tomorrow. Okay, and so life on Earth has developed a set of goal-setting imperatives around survival that when we get to a point at which an organism is surviving and thriving, surviving quite well, has enough brain power to go decide to do something else, then you get animals that can play. Okay, so mammals, some birds, we think maybe now even some reptiles have enough spare time and enough brain power based on this evolution of goal setting that they can go do something else if they want to that's not directly related to survival. And you see this in children of many species where they learn by playing. Okay, play is kind of how they determine their social order for later in life and things like that. But having the time to play and not just surviving is part of that evolution of goal setting that says, okay, now I want to do something else. Okay, autonomous machines. How do you create a goal-setting autonomous machine?
Exactly.
One that has an imperative to set some goals but not others and decide what it's going to do. So we have a framework. We call it MOVE, M-O-O-V. Starts with modeling that generates options. Then you have to have an opinion about which option you want to pursue. And that's where the goal setting starts to come in. And then you have to have volition. And so, again, evolutionary. In an evolutionary sense, we have this imperative to do something. Okay, I'm in the wrong place. I need to move. Okay, I need to relocate. I need to go chase something down and kill it so I can eat. But not only do we have to create machines that can set goals, but then we have to create machines that care about those goals, that actually will follow through and implement it, and it's not academic. So they're not just telling us, hey, this is the course of action, but now we're creating a machine that says, I must act and follow through on this decision that I've made, which option I want to pursue.
So, of course, at the moment, when we talk about artificial intelligence, it's us who set the goals for the machines. We give them pre-programmed goals. Yeah. And earlier on, you mentioned, is it possible to create an artificial intelligence without it going through life, 25 years of life, where it's developed ideas and memories and values and things? Could we just put those in there, because then automatically we're talking about our own goals rather than its goals?
Absolutely. So there's, a lot of threads there. So in creating, so I'm going to back up for just a second and talk about the main thread of imitating machines, which is autonomous machines and automation of labor and the job force. And as we've looked at the hierarchy of jobs, most of the tests we've developed are intelligence tests. Mm-hmm. Okay, what you can do and what you know. So things that can be objectively tested. Like, I can lift that, I can't lift that. Okay, I know that fact, I don't know that fact. Okay, we don't have very good tests for understanding and models and thought process. Okay, in higher level job interviews, we go into behavioral interviews, which are highly subjective, to attempt to get to some of those kind of squishy issues around thought process. So is that important for machines to take most of our jobs? Most of our jobs actually don't require, either don't require a high degree of problem solving or actively discourage it. Okay, so any job that has a pretty hard rubric set of rules for how you do the job and how you make decisions and what those decisions should be, should you be presented with options, those can be automated. We didn't think driving was one of those, okay? But as it turns out, it can be codified. If you can recognize what's around you, which we're doing with deep learning now, then you can, it is rules-based, okay? Factory automation, business process automation. I think it's one of the reasons between the PC revolution and now smartphones increasing the communication channels, giving us the option to communicate with as many individuals as we want at one time, kind of levels organizations, but also the fact that a lot of middle management was making decisions that were easy to codify. Okay, so business process, once you're at a point where you have the automation so that you and I can trade emails, IMs, phone calls, stay in touch, I can manage more people as a manager, my people can be more autonomous, I can measure them remotely, I don't need middle management. Okay, and so one of the effects of the PC revolution, of this communications revolution, is that we're seeing flatter organizations, and we've essentially automated the need for middle management out without actually explicitly developing the systems to do so. We're doing that even more with business process automation. So bringing that back to, all right, machine intelligence, where will they threaten us next? So creativity. Okay, so when you talk about goals, then you talk about this imperative to keep moving, to do something different. Organisms like humans with too much time on their hands like to play, and we like to see, what if? Here, hold my beer. Okay. Often that in Texas, that's on a lot of tombstones. Here, hold my beer. Okay. But risk is a whole different set of topics. But as we create sapient machines that are able to move farther up the job food chain into decision-making roles, then we have to ask ourselves, what is creativity? Is there something intrinsically human about creativity? And we decomposed creativity into kind of two thoughts. One is based on patent law, which is the concept of novel invention. So is what you've done significantly different than what other people have done? Mm-hmm. Okay, and we can measure that quantitatively, qualitatively. We can say that it's a variation that hasn't been thought of before, or it's a completely new thing. But we have ways to objectively measure that. The other quality of creativity is retrospective, and did it add value? Okay, if it's novel but it doesn't add value, it's the question about a tree falling in a forest. Can anybody hear it? And our answer is, if you can't measure a movement of money, monetary value, in addition to the novelty, it's not really creative. And so that can be a business process. It can be a new invention. But the process of creativity is a measurable process of value creation. Had a security discussion yesterday where we talked about completely different track, emotions. So machine sapience, non-human machine sapience, if we're not modeling a human brain and chemical process, why should it have emotion? So it will be able to recognize human emotion. It'll be able to respond to human emotion. Next decade, we already have virtual actors. In the next decade, with a video like this, somebody will be able to take my face, my voice, a computer, I won't say somebody, and a machine sapience might take my face, my voice, use it as an interaction mode with someone else, okay? And that someone, unless they knew me, would believe it's me. I would have emotion. I would be responding to their emotional state and the intelligent questions they're asking me. And in Terminator 2, I love that moment where one Terminator's at the kid's parents' house, the other Terminator's with the kid, and he says, "What's your dog's name?" And calls up Terminator 2 and says, "How's Wolfie?" And when the Terminator responds inappropriately, says, "Oh, Wolfie's fine. Your parents are dead." Okay, hangs up the phone. Brilliant moment of using a hidden piece of information, right? Both machines are capable of mimicking emotional states. Both of them are not experiencing emotion, okay? They may be learning machines, but they're non-human, okay? But that little piece of information passed between them, we're going to have to figure out. So, Turing test, okay? We already have machines that can spoof Turing tests. Pretty soon we'll have machines that can conduct an extended Turing test with deep knowledge of topics. The interesting thing will be how much information is available about me to convince people increasingly close to me that they're talking to me. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. Think about some of the questions you get asked as security challenges that come from those government databases and banks, right? And so, I think Asimov in the iRobot series in Caves of Steel, positronic brains are not human brains. Got a lot of things right about how they're going to discover the universe around them, how they would interact with humans. I think there's probably something to being in an anthropomorphic body. So, bilateral symmetry based on great apes. So if you're in this body with the sensory input, at least in a sensory fashion, you'd have nearly a human experience, maybe with some extended senses. Okay, but you're now in a location, or at least that part of the system is in a location, having a somewhat human existential experience, right? And so I think that form might follow function in having something that could at least sympathize with the point of view that we whether that's an emotional sympathy or not, at least an experiential sympathy. Anyhow, I love science fiction, and I think that many of the authors have explored this space quite well. So anyhow.
So I suppose the bottom line is that there has to be an apocalypse because that makes a good story, but the background to it is maybe there's some interesting sort of...
to me, the endpoint, one endpoint is human-run corporations making decisions to automate large amounts of labor are going to affect society.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Will a sapient machine, I don't care if they're self-aware, will a sapient machine care about us enough to do anything at all about us?
Yeah.
Okay. It's a big universe. So I had the good fortune in the late 80s of hearing Carl Sagan speak in Huntsville, Alabama, to the manned spaceflight program in the U.S. Okay, so he was at a high school auditorium. They had a little section of the floor, basketball floor, cordoned off, and at that point, the 60, 70-year-old white-haired Apollo scientists filed in, right? And so everybody really anxious to hear Carl Sagan speak. Small town, actually, Huntsville, Alabama. But that's where he gave his send robots to the planets and not humans speech. Right. And you could hear a pin drop in the auditorium. Okay, wrong audience. I'm a speaker too, and so choosing your audience and your subject matter. He was making a point. Yeah. Okay, which is we have to send these biospheres into space. At some point, machines are going to have enough power. They don't need us. Yeah. Okay, we're not. That's where science fiction gets some things sensationally wrong. The Matrix. They'll have enough power generation sources. They won't need air. They won't need food. And so the question is, why would they stay here?
Right.
They've got a much bigger universe to go into. So would they care about us at all? I think the biggest problem we would worry about from robots is simply neglect. What resources, at some point when they become sapient, when they control their own destiny, are we just ants in the way?
Right.
Okay, it's not
malevolent.
not malevolent,
no.
but kind of a collateral damage, unintended consequences. Okay, so I think that's much more of a future danger than robots who actively care about us at all. Okay.
We could sit here for another hour and talk about this stuff. It's absolutely brilliant. Paul, tell us again your blog, and we'll close.
Imitatingmachines.com. Gary, thank you very much.
Go read the blog. It's been a pleasure. Thanks, Paul. Thanks very much.